Mindy moved quickly to him with the whip and, well, no. I'm sorry. I'm Kit, this is Bear, and we're just trying to pick up where we left off. We are on video 21 now, and this is the last part of chapter 43. Alright. Mindy moved quickly to the whip and offered to Danny, offering it up. He took it and snapped it, and Mindy knelt. "Please discipline your courtesan, my master," Mindy cried, and he struck her 3 times. I cringed. "You know better. Go to your chambers, and there you will remain for the rest of the day," he told her. "Thanks to my master," she said and left the room. I felt the fear I had returned. It had returned. He held the whip out to Brian, and Brian moved, taking it, replacing it on the wall. "Patsy, calm down. There is a practice room for such things. That is where you will practice, unless doing it with one that is free, so you do not upset the guards, and they fear you will break something," he explained, and pulled me up to his lips and kissed me. I returned his kiss. "May your girl speak?" I asked. "Yes," he answered. "May your girl return to the garden?" I then asked him. "Why?" he asked. "Your girl's work is out there, my master," I replied. "Brian, go collect your things from the garden," Danny said and looked to me. "You will remain here with us," he told me, and I said not a word as Brian returned with the music charts, and I sat there listening to them talk of the circle, and I worked on the charts. I found out my Danny Lee was not going to let me linger off his leash. Okay, chapter 44. And now we know we have to watch, and when it gets close to 25, I've got to come to a stop. So we were only performing in Atlantis and the surrounding villages, for the rotation of the millennium was moving up on us fast. It was the year of 79, on the first day of the first month of the first year cycle of the millennium year cycle of 80. One of the sons of the high priest was under obligation to climb the mountain of Odin and return the scepter. I was not sure about how the scepter became to be on the mountain. However, it was said that the scepter was once again on Odin's mountain. The problem was no one knew who was going to be the next millennium high priest, as all believed Scott to be, and he flat refuses to climb the mountain, as it is said that one climbing the mountain had to do so for the care of the people and the desire to guide them. Scott had the care for his people, however, not the desire to guide them, or that was what he insisted. Everyone seemed to lose the capability of thinking at this time. Jolene, Sandy, Emmy, Mindy, and I, along with Karen and Lisa, who were my backup singers, were sitting at the side table of the tavern. "I do not understand the situation of the sector," I had said. "All right, on the first day of the first month of the second year cycle and the 79th year cycle of the 9th century, the high priest is to take the sector to Lord's land and place it in the chapel of Lorden. From there, before the first day of the 80th year cycle, it disappears. That is when it is on Odin's mountain," Emmy explained. "How did it get on Odin's mountain to begin with?" Jolene asked, as I was thinking the same thing. "That I am not sure of. Either one of the fathers takes it up, or Odin comes down and collects it. Odin coming down I am not too sure of, No one has seen our Lord since the saga of Haggard. The high priest stands in the representative of our Lord, Emmy said. So the sector is in Lord's land, I asked. Emmy laughed. Actually, the sector is on the mountain. That is why Father is so nervous. None of my brothers went to climb the mountain, besides Peter, that wish only the rule, and he will not make it back down, for it is the wrong reason to climb, and Emmett, who Father insists is way too young. As we speak, they are in the Millennium meeting, Emmy said. I need to get to the palace and find out what is going on. I will see all of you later tonight. She then said and stood and walked out. I watched her leave as another entered. The tavern was not technically opened for service. It was only around 2 passing, and the tavern opened actually at 5 passing. So no one was about to serve, and any who came in at this hour knew this and ordered at the bar. This one moved to a table to set, and we continued to speak of the millennium and what Emmy had said. The man could not have been from Atlantis. This I knew, for about 10 minutes passing, he came over to the table where we were sitting and grabbed Mindy up by the arm. She screamed as he tossed her to the floor. Jolene stood. Excuse me, master, is there something we can do for you? Jolene asked. Your disrespect is not going to be tolerated. I will have you beat for it, he said, as I watched Mindy heel and look from us to him. Jonathan and Brian were behind the bar. I watched Brian move off to the side as the man only grabbed Mindy. John stood there and was watching. I know those here pamper their Thorntons. However, that is no excuse to ignore the free, he said. Excuse me. No one is ignoring any, master, Jolene said. Get me the owner. I will have each of you beat for your disrespect. The man said, Sir, there is no one here disrespecting you. If you wish a drink, go to the bar and order such. We are not open for service as of right now, I told him. Who are you and who do you belong to? He started to ask when Tony came up on us. Lonnie, it is a pleasure not to have you here, Tony said. Tony, I wish to speak with the owner of the tavern. It seems his Thorntons ignore the free. The one Tony called Lonnie said, and I gathered they knew one another, and so now I sat confused, as I was under the understanding that Tony was the owner of the tavern. You are speaking to him, and I do not see a serving girl about, only those girls of the circle, Tony informed him. Tony, we both know you own this tavern not. Now, have the prince contacted. The man then said, Right, ass as always, Tony said, and turned to me. Patsy, where's Daniel? Tony asked, and I looked shocked up at him. Danny owned the tavern? I thought to myself. My master is at the hall in the meeting with the high priest, I said, confused. Lonnie, I am not disturbing a circle meeting just to satisfy your Slavic ego. Tony laughed, I believe trying to stay calm. I got the impression these two really did not like one another. Send word just the same. I am here to speak with him and Scott and have me properly served, or it will be more than just my Slavic ego I complain about, he said harshly and moved away. I looked to Tony. Tony, Danny owns this tavern, I asked. Yes, Patsy, officially he does, he said and moved behind the bar where Brian was. He spoke to Brian, then Brian left. I sat looking to the others. Everyone know that besides me? I asked. However, they all seemed surprised as I did not feel much alone. So I did not feel much alone. No, I thought Tony owned the tavern, Sandy said. He signs my coin voucher, Lisa laughed. Right. He signs mine also when I was free to receive one, I said, still confused. Mindy and Sandy had started to serve as I was waiting for Jack and Bobby, who was part of my band, to show up. They had something to take care of and was late. I watched as Danny, Paul, Scott, and Emmett came in. I watched as they moved over to the table where the one Tony called Lonnie was sitting. Then they all moved over to where I was. Patsy, get me a sherry, darling, and have Mindy come here, Danny said, and I stood as he then sat, and the others sat down also. I said not a word and moved over to the bar and fixed his sherry. I looked to Mindy. Danny wants you, I told her. She nodded and moved over to the table. I continued to fix his drink, then moved over and placed it on the table. He looked up to me. Where is your band? He asked. Jack and Bobby had things to do. They should be here shortly, I told him. Jack and Bobby were my keyboard and guitarist. Just the same, get up on that stage and sing something, he said, pulling me down to kiss him, and up on stage I moved. He was not in the best moods as he was speaking stern to me. I took my guitar up and started to sing. Soon my band actually showed up. As I sung, I kept an eye on Danny and the others. They were still speaking to the one they called Lonnie. I announced my break as I needed something to drink. Moving off the stage, I hesitantly walked over to Danny, not sure as to what to do. I felt odd for some reason or another, as he had actually ordered me up on the stage and to sing, and had yet motioned me off it. Now, if that sounded crazy, you're right. I moved over to him and stood to the side. He looked up to me. Darling, are you all right? He asked. I said, and I was not sure how to speak or feel at this moment. Darling, what is wrong? Danny asked with a laugh in his voice. I just looked to him as I had a hard time trying to speak. Patsy, what is it? What is wrong? He asked sternly. Nothing, not sure how to speak right now, I said, confused. He reached and pulled me onto his lap. You relax and tell me what is amiss, he said. I needed a break and was not sure if it was all right, I said honestly to him. He smiled and kissed me. It is all right. Lonnie, this is my kitten, Patsy Lee. He smiled. Also, she is the Patsy Lee, he commented. That she is. Patsy, this is Count of the town of Slavic, Lonnie Lorden, Danny said, and now I knew who he was. Nice to meet you, Master. I was not sure how to address him. Master, sir, as you are permitted, he said. He seemed a lot kinder than he had when he first came in. I sat there with Danny for a while, then back on stage I went. Later that night, when we went home, I took a bath and Danny was in the study. I moved into the study and over to him, sitting on his lap. He placed his arms around me and kissed my lips. Danny, I have a question. If it is all right for me to ask, I said to him. What is it, darling? He asked. I thought Tony owned the tavern. However, the man said that he did not. Then he said you did. I said to him. Actually, we both own that tavern. At one time, Tony had a drinking and gambling problem. He owned the Southern Tavern in Atlantis. He owned the Southern Tavern in Atlantis and the Northern Tavern in Frandil. He had a debt at the casino lodge in Slavic for the amount of 30 diamonds. They had already taken his daughter, and James Milston offered to purchase her and assist her, as he did all the other young girls, to keep himself out of a collar and brand. He started to sell everything he had. He sold the tavern in Frendale and both estates. All he had was the tavern here, and he was 20 diamonds away from the debt. Lonnie told him he had 60 days to come up with the remaining of the debt. When Tony told me what was going on, I agreed to purchase the tavern for 8 diamonds. However, that was not enough, so I gave him a loan for the remaining of the debt, then a job to take care of the tavern, get off the liquor, no more gambling, and he became one of my personal guards. Also, I had a compartment built above the tavern where Tony lives, and I have owned the tavern ever since. Not sure if he has repaid the debt by now or not. We never kept track of it, he said, laughing. I do not claim the tavern, just a few, as like Lonnie, even though I own it. He said. I smiled. That would explain even more why I sang in it, I teased. Actually, that was his ideal. And then after the people fell madly in love with you, as I did, the tavern band became yours. Now, that was my ideal. He laughed. You mean they actually worked for me? I asked. They still do. He then smiled and kissed me. I have another meeting tomorrow, as Emmett has requested to climb the mountain. Father is to give us an answer tomorrow. We need to get some sleep, he said, and standing, I followed him into the chambers. Chapter 45. The year was 79, the 4th month, 20th day, 1st year cycle of the 9th cycle of the 16th millennium. Danny and the others again were at Valhalla, and I with Jolene. Sandy were at the tavern. Everyone was worried about the next high priest. Still no one knew which was climbing the mountain. Tony had come over and sat at the table with us. Danny say anything about the meeting? Tony asked. No, I did not really ask. This morning he kissed me and said he would meet us here. I told him. What happens, my master, if none of them climb the mountain? Sandy asked. That I am not sure of. That, however, one of them has to, Tony said. Would it not be that Lewis would serve another term? I asked. Only if the journey fails does he serve once more. There is nothing written that I know about no sun climbing, so that I do not know. He said, we sat there for the following of 2 hours. I worked on some recording setups, and Tony paced the tavern. It was around 3 passing when Danny came in. He was alone. As he walked over to the table, Tony came over to us. So, what is going on? Tony asked. Not much, and then a lot. Between Scott, Mike, Paul, and myself is who Father was looking to climb the mountain, actually. Scott told Father to place the Lord Mountains in his ass. Danny said with a chuckle. Mike said he would entertain our people, protect them. However, he does not desire to guide them. I flat refuse. I am not climbing that damn mountain. I would not know the first thing towards guiding our people. Paul said he would do it if he absolutely had to. Father insists on Scott. Scott insists he would not return, and Emmett spoke up and said he would climb it and he would return. Peter still wants to climb it. He laughed again. Father said no. So it is between Paul and Emmett. Father is speaking with them as we speak, Danny said when Patricia came in and looked at Danny. Seen my other half? She asked, moving to the table. Danny looked to her. He is in a meeting with Father, he told her. He has been in that meeting with your father for 6 hours passing now. The graduation starts soon. Stockard is graduating. He promised Juanita and her he would be there, Partina said, sitting down. Him and Paul will be here as soon as they can, Danny told her, and she sat worried at the table. I went back working on the recording setups. At around 6 passing, Emmett and Paul came in the tavern. We all stood and looked to them. Danny looked to the two of them. As they stood there not saying anything, Emmett motioned for Partina. The graduation is going to start. Actually, it has started, Partina said. Yes, I know. I want you to go on with the others to the education center, Emmett told her. Jolene looked worried up to Paul as he moved over to her. All right, moron, which is it? Danny asked. Oh, I am climbing the mountain, Emmett said with a smile. Really? Partina said, all excited. Really, Father said since I actually wanted to, and I did for the care and the guidance of our people, then I could, as Paul would be doing it out of obligation. I have a better chance of returning, and I told him there was no chance I would return. He said, and I laughed. Emmett was always so confident in all he said and did. He would make a good high priest, I thought. So I am saved from having 7 wives, Paul laughed. I have to tell Juanita, Partina said and kissed Emmett. She took off out of the tavern. I need to get to the graduation and to find Law. I know he is on pins and needles. He then left the tavern.